Minnesota Vikings fans, welcome back to the Purple People Eaters podcast. He's Aaron, I'm Chris, and we're here to talk about a Vikings victory. Not just a regular run-of-the-mill, although there's really not regular run-of-the-mill victories this year, but not just your average victory, right? It's a victory over the Green Bay Packers, so it feels even better. And, according to all Packer fans on Twitter, the refs were just screwing them left and right. We got guys missing on our defense. They actually have a better offensive line and all this shit. Well, Cousins has a better line than us. Have you been watching our games? To all that stuff, injuries, penalties, come on, dude. But I'll tell you what. What do you know? It came down to the last play of the game. 7 of them. 7 out of our 10 games have come down to the last play. 9 out of 10 within a score. It's just been nuts. But hey, the Vikings got it done. And they got it done with a kick at the end. And we can actually say that. There's no knocking on wood on that. We can actually say it. I think we even brought that up last week. Like, the field goal at the end, I don't know. But, man, that was a great win. So, obviously, the offense was on full display. We'll talk all the good stuff. There was some, bad stuff here and there, of course. The defense, it was a tale of two halves. The second half, Zimmer did take some blame, but, man, the second half, 3 possessions, 3 touchdowns. And, of course, we all know about that 175-yard play that just was like, are you effing kidding me? But we're going to talk it through, right? Then we're, of course, going to preview this next game that we got in San Francisco. San Francisco 49ers, who just happened to be the same record as the Vikings, 5-5. And if you've listened to the show long enough, you know that we closed the show talking a little bit of Gopher football, and it's Wisconsin week. So this is a big one, regardless of what can happen in a 4-way tie. God bless a 4-way tie because it's really helping us rather than a 2-way tie. It's kind of funny how that works. But, yeah, man, it's just good to be back to 500, winning these last 2 games. We talked about that 4-game stretch where if we could just somehow go 2-2, we'd be in good shape. And here we are in pretty good shape the next 4 games. Can we go in 2-2? Will we go 1-3? Will we go 3-1? We're going to talk it all the way through. If this is your first time listening, though, to the Purple People Eaters podcast, welcome. It's available in a wide variety of places. You can listen to it right here on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. You don't have to go to Blog Talk and Rope-A-Dope, though. If you don't want to and download the show there or listen to the browser, you can find this here Vikings podcast on the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Player FM, TuneIn, other places as well. When it comes to Rope-A-Dope, we're also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network. While you're at it, why don't you head on over to thegruelingtruth.com. And last year sometime, Aaron opened up Living in Loserville on Spreaker. It's an official page on Spreaker. It's called Living in Loserville. The Vikes stuff that we're doing is there. Of course, when we get into January, we're going to go deep in January. You guys know that, right? But the Timberwolves and Gophers will come later in the winter and whatnot. A lot of that is there as well. And some of his podcasts that you might be into. That's Living in Loserville on the Spreaker page. And one more thing. If you're thinking about cutting the cord or, you're not quite happy, I got something for you. It's called DirecTV Stream. The prices start as low as $69.99 a month. It's the best of live TV and on-demand, no annual contract, no hidden fees. If you upgrade to the Choice or Ultimate package, that'll give you 3 free months of HBO Max. Plus, you get to enjoy regional sports networks with no additional fees, which you've seen that's been more and more cable outlets have been cutting that. And if you go to the Premier package, that'll give you Showtime and HBO part of the package. That's DirecTV Stream. Okay. Let's go ahead and bring in my co-host, Aaron. And, we're used to these, just hold on for your dear life type games. But I got to say, it sure does feel doing it better, against our hated rival in Green Bay.
Yeah, I just want to say, what was that we saw? I mean, where has that been all year? I haven't seen a team that determined and just full of energy all season. And it's like, well, do you have to wait to play to Green Bay all the time to get that, and playing at home or whatever it was? Offensively, it seemed like we made all the right calls, maybe not all, but quite a few good calls, and being aggressive down the field, a lot of targets to Jefferson, et cetera. Defensive played with some spark and a little bit of grit. And it's just like, well, it's not like you didn't see that maybe in games before, but it just didn't seem like the same sort of energy. So it was good to see, but at the same time made you wonder, where's that been all season?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of it. Like, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it's the consistent energy. Of course, defensively in the second half was like, well, what's going on? So I guess we didn't play great as a team like we've been talking about. But, yeah, I mean, it is really hit or miss, man. To do it the whole way. I mean, we played such a great, quote unquote ranked defense. That's also what I think you're talking about offensively, is to do what we did against that defense. Is definitely like, hey, let's stick to this. Those 2 back-to-back weeks where we weren't ourselves, let's not go back. Of course, sometimes they're going to, Green Bay, it's funny, Zimmer talked about, someone asked him, hey, why didn't they bracket and double and all that? Well, if you got a great defense, a lot of times you don't do that unless you're just getting destroyed. And he said, you're going to have to ask them that, dude, because I don't know why they didn't do it, but hey, we'll take it. So some of that, of course, we know you're not going to be overly aggressive if you're constantly throwing in double teams, but even that intermediate route across the field, I mean, it was just aggressive, sometimes even too aggressive. But in a game like that, especially how the second half was going, where we couldn't stop them, we just had to. And it was funny because we kind of, we found out who Kenny Clark is pretty close. Is it Kenny Clark?
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy, we found
Kenny
out who
Clark.
he was. We found out who he was right away. But we kind of, both teams traded field goals to make it 3-3. We had a nice play to Jefferson, like for 43 yards. Cook had a great block on that play, by the way. Of course, we had a little sack. It, stalled the drive. And Breeland actually had a nice knock away early. Breeland actually played really good. That was their first drive. So it was like, okay, 3-3. We both established something, and then we did get Green Bay to punt. I think it was like 6 or 7 plays they punted. Once again, a ball going deep. They were trying to go for Breeland early. He was playing really good the whole game, but he knocked down another ball. But there was like a pretty weak call, a PI on Peterson. It is what it is. Almost an interception by Breeland, by the way. But when we got to Rodgers and that sacked fumble and the ball just magically went back to him, of course, that whole first half defensively, Aaron, they were bringing pressure and they were making them really uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was getting to. I mean, even the tackling was better. I mean, the front seven played the best I saw them play all year. I mean, you didn't see the back squirting out for an extra 2 yards. I think I saw one possession where they gave up an 8-yard run on first down, but other than that, it was 3, 4 manageable first down runs that, weren't like breaking the back of the defense. And, they did some things up front, I thought, with, Richardson playing on the outside a little bit and getting some pressure from the middle. They just seemed to do a lot of things that you just hadn't seen earlier in the season. And so that's kind of why I let off that way. It was like, well, where's this been? I mean, if you have these ideas, why wait till Green Bay to implement them? Or maybe that's just the way the season has gone as far as, coming up with new ideas. But I thought the front seven played really, really well. Tackling was a lot better. Peterson definitely helps the secondary. There's just no doubt about that. And, Harrison Smith's backs also seemed to be a good deal too. So, I mean, defensively, I thought they played the best they've played all season. And offensively, they did come out earlier in the season, maybe Arizona, where they played pretty good offensively. But I just thought overall, they finally put a game together. Now, they only won by 3, but it just seemed like, the complimentary football, quote unquote, was actually something they accomplished this week.
Yeah. So it was 3-3, got them to punt. Vikings go down and really made pretty fairly quick work of it. I mean, 3:20, 6 plays, 7 plays, something like that. There was a nice first down catch on a third down. That was another thing, the third down, man, that was huge, actually for both sides, unfortunately. But nice little toe tapper by Thielen, and then we, like we did early in last week, this week as well, early in the game, boom, we go deep to Jefferson, almost stretched it enough. Maybe if he took another step or whatever, it was like the step right before he's about to jump is where you could see he got caught up. And that must have hurt the cornerback a little bit because he got him right in the you-know-whats. But he almost reached out there, but in the end, it really didn't matter. Cook got it in right away. But, of course, we're up only 9-3, Aaron, because we had a missed extra point. But we kind of take those in stride now. It is what it is. You kind of just shake your head and go, what the hell was that? Now, the Packers came back with a very impressive drive. 5 minutes, 12 plays, 61 yards. But they actually had a deep ball, I think in there like a 39-yard deep ball. But on a third down, Sheldon had a pressure that kind of made him throw it away. And it was really nice to hear that bonk. Hitting the goalpost, not going in. They've had their struggles only this year. Crosby's usually a stud, but he's missed like 8 of them this year or something like that, which is pretty surprising. I know overall kicking is having a rough year this year across the league, but, we're not going to shed any tears over here, obviously. And off that missed field goal, though, I love how they just, okay, let's go deep to JJ. And no, he didn't catch it. They didn't catch it, but you know what? It was a pass interference. And it's like, okay, here we go. Now we got something going. Now we did get a lucky play here. There was like a miscommunication. I don't know if Cousins threw it early and he thought he was going that way, or there, like I said, something happened there because you could see Jefferson went straight and then I think he turned right and the ball was already delivered. Jefferson's like, well, what the ball? I don't even know the thing's coming. What the hell's going on? And it was a pick, but much like, it works against us, the helmet to helmet. And I saw some people like looking at that play like that wasn't. It's like, dude, that's helmet to helmet, dude. This is the NFL. That's helmet to helmet. Yeah, we'll take it. We got lucky. We'll take it. That's part of it. And on a 3rd and goal, Thielen touchdown. It just felt like, okay, 16-3. We got him on a 3 and out right away. Of course, we 3 and out. And then the dreaded last 2 minutes, Aaron, of the second quarter.
Well, I mean, this happened all season. It's almost predictable at this point. I don't know what it is, and I think we did spend a show trying to speculate on what it was, but they give up points always at the end of the second quarter. And, it wasn't like, the 72-yard bomb out of nowhere. It was just a drive that, you could have found a way to stop, but it just didn't happen, and you end up giving up points. I mean, not a lot to say about it. Just needs to stop. But I think they try to address it. I mean, obviously they are, but I don't know what you can do about it other than just try to ride it out.
Yeah, and the fact that they only allowed, that many points early, that felt a little better, right? But here it is. So with that touchdown, 57 points to lead the league. 57 points in the last 2 minutes before half. They flashed that stat up that said 3, the most in the league, fourth quarter blows, right? Penalty yards, 75 a game, and then 20, we got the most holding penalties, and they flashed that little stat underneath there. So now it's 59 points we've allowed in that time frame. But the underlying thing there is, hey, they only gave up 3, and it would have been only 6 even if they would have hit that field goal. So you let some points in. It's only 10 points. That's really not – we got 16. It's really not that big of a deal. And once again, last time or 2 times ago against Baltimore, it's a kickoff return. But that drive that we had at the beginning of the third quarter, though, that was a thing of beauty. 14 plays, 75 yards, 6:34 on the clock. And, we also punched the thing in, too. Sometimes you can have these nice drives and it doesn't matter. I thought that was a big one, and you started to see Cook have about 3 or 4 nice runs on that play. And I think Jefferson got the touchdown on that one on 3rd and goal. A lot of third down and goals and third down success, this game here. But dude, Cook really started grinding, and we talked about, okay, let's pass in the first half. We only had like 30 rushing yards, so we can open it up and start grinding those tough runs. And I thought Cook was a workhorse on the low, even though he didn't break out for 120, rushing yards. He still was grinding.
Well, they had a lot of guys in the box to start off the game to stop Cook, and it worked out fairly well. But Chris, really, I think it comes down to penalties here, the lack of penalties. I mean, if you're not 2nd and 20, if you're not, 1st and 20, it's amazing what you can do moving the ball down the field. And it just didn't seem like they got any holding calls. They didn't, self-destruct in any way, false starts or anything like that. I mean, offensive line, as far as being focused, played well. I think there's some talent issues there, but, that's how it can be if everybody's locked in and not getting penalties and blocking the right way. You don't end up with these long, 2nd 20 situations. You can kind of move the ball down. And, Cousins played really well in that drive, particularly on 3rd down, getting the ball out, taking chances, throwing to receivers, and just giving guys chance to make plays. And for the most part, guys made plays.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you knew, okay, well, we got our 2-score lead now. It's 3rd quarter, so it's midway through. Okay, here they come. Here they come, and here they come. They came. Let's put it that way. A few chunk pass plays. Rodgers had that nice, 20, 25-yard scramble for a 1st down. There was a reverse for Xavier. You talk about the missed tackles, and you're right. That was a major improvement, but Xavier Woods was not necessarily that guy this week. That reverse that he missed the tackle. In another one, he just overplayed it. It was like, what's going on? And Rodgers had, in the second half, that's where the defense fell apart and the pressure fell apart. Zimmer did mention how he probably should have just kept doing what he was doing, but usually you got to adjust when you go against Rodgers, So the amount of time Rodgers had when he found Adams in the end zone, I was getting a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. It was 23-17. Then Cousins, though, just what I thought was a really stupid pass in the double coverage to Thielen. Luckily, Thielen knocked it down. But I was like, really, dude? That's not. No, but, we actually did get a nice 1st down. Jefferson, again, he kind of darted into him. And Cousins had Thielen, but he had to get rid of the ball because of the pressure, and he just wasn't able to get the timing right, unfortunately. And I thought he was hurt. I know he lost his win, but I thought he was hurt when it was not just your regular sandwich, Aaron, a triple sandwich, 3-layer sandwich on Cousins when he fumbled that ball. I was like, oh, dude, I think he's finally hurt. And he got up looking like he kind of lost his win. But I got to admit, at that point, it wasn't looking good, and we had him on like a 2nd and 15, no problem. It started getting out of hand at that point defensively. And when we couldn't move the ball really much, all of a sudden they had the ball trying to get the lead.
Yeah, I mean, that sack was, if it wasn't for Darisaw falling on the ball, which I think, he probably gave up the sack. And he's been playing really, really well. And, it's great. We kind of got lucky. We lose Riley Reef. We draft Christian Darisaw. We lose Stephon Diggs. We draft Justin Jefferson. We got kind of lucky. We don't want to bring up Gladney or anything like that, but drafting wise, we've been pretty lucky. And, I wasn't too down about the sack. Now, if we gave up the ball and it was a turnover, that would have been different, but having to punt there wasn't the biggest problem in the world, although they were starting to heat up on the other end. So at that point, you're just like, come on, let's see if we can, get this through and come out, defense get a stop, and we can continue with the game and maybe get another one of those drives because the offense was moving the ball at that point. Cook was getting some yards, and running the ball was a possibility at that point.
That's a good call because it was 8 plays, and it did take almost 4 minutes off the off the clock. But I guess it was just that pressure that I'm seeing. Like we see a lot of pressure, obviously. Well, we're not seeing it, but as we're watching the game. But the second half, it seemed like it ramped up, and I thought the next time he gets hit like that, that might not be so lucky. But of course, they and this is what I was talking about Xavier Woods. He overplayed a play on third down, and it was like, dude, we already got a guy there. What are you doing overplaying it? And he went right by him. I think it was Cobb. And then they had that Cobb option to Dillon for the first down. I'm like, okay, that was a good play. That was a good play call. I'll give you that, you bastards. I was like, okay. And then Adams on a 3rd and 6 got hit really hard, held on to the ball. It looked like Rodgers down by the goal line was trying to call a timeout. Well, he did call a timeout, but the ball was already snapped, so it was in the air. And I think it was Alexander on that play where, to me, it's really bothersome when Adams, their best wide receiver and one of the best wide receivers in the whole league, is completely wide open. And maybe the timeout thing, you got to play through the whistle. You know what I mean? I could see, like, as a cornerback or maybe one of those players, I don't know, we got pressure on him. Actually, no, I take that back because Griffith got pressure on him. So it was like there's really no excuse to leave that guy wide open. And here we are, got a nice two-score lead. Nope, not anymore. It's 24-23. And like I said, we literally just left their best guy wide open in the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that just seems like that's probably a coverage error, but then you're right about the pressure. I mean, he did have to step up in the pocket. I think he moved to the left a little bit and up in the pocket. And to leave, Mac's done that a few times where you're like, where were you? What happened? And, he's supposed to be a veteran there. I mean, trained by Zimmer, so he should be able to understand coverages. So I don't know if it was a Zimmer call there or if it was, Mac just not being able to stick with. But you don't want to see Devontae Adams alone in the end zone. And with Rodgers will hit him. I mean, he just puts it where he wants it. And that pass was a perfect example of just, see it, throw it, boom, done. And he's very talented. You can't do that against Rodgers. You can't blitz him, and we'll talk about that later. And he's a tough guy to defend, and, you're going to give up some things.
Yeah, that's really well, like you said, really well put about where he wants it. The guy with just – that dude's a stud, man. You could say whatever. He's obviously like the biggest prima donna quarterback almost of all time. Usually that's wide receivers, right? But the dude has burnt us so many times. But usually we play good against him once, and then he tags us for once. This was kind of a mixture because at the end of the game, he had a ton of yards and touchdowns. But, man, we played so good early. That's why I think Zimmer brought that up. But, it's okay. It was okay. The Vikings, down now 24-23. We're like, here we go again. Are we just going to, are we going to score a touchdown? Are we going to kick a field goal? What are we going to do here? And they respond with 12 plays, 79 yards over 5 minutes. And Thielen made a great first down catch. Kind of like dove early on a second down when he kind of got more yards, but he ended up making a nice catch beyond that anyway. There was that one play where nobody picked up the guy. Nobody picked up the defender. They even replayed it. Like, I'm not sure who was on that guy, but nobody was on him. And I was like, what is going on? And I think that was on that three play that JJ got the catch on that, because it was just like, just get it out there. But even on that Jefferson play where Cousins just got hit again right at release, and Jefferson, there's so many great things he does, but, he's not a big guy, right? But much like Chris Carter, and obviously Randy Moss was a specimen, but he was so good, Aaron, at keeping his hands down and keep running the route until the last second. And he always, whether it's back shoulder, whatever, it just seems like he consistently has, he's first to the ball. He's not like out muscling these guys. He's just instinctive. And like I said, to keep his eyes down and his hands down until the last second, makes that catch and was like, nope, I'm getting in the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's sports cliche. He's He's not big. He's just long. He's got long arms, long legs. He's a long strider. It throws off timing and defensive backs. He's good with his body, boxing out, finding ways to get open. And like you said, first to the ball. I mean, these are all like wide receiver fundamentals, and he's just really good at it. He high points the ball when he needs to. And I remember his rookie season, I'm like, God, this guy's got to catch with his hands more because he just goes to the body. But I don't worry about it at all. He knows when to use his body to catch a ball and when to use his hands. And that was a great play because I thought he pushed off at first. I'm like, I'm waiting for the flag.
Right.
But he didn't. He just kind of adjusted to the ball in such a way that created space, got the ball, got in the end zone. Great play. Jefferson continues to make them. And I'm beginning to think that the more chances you give him, the better off it's going to be. Just throw it up there. You throw a pick from time to time, it's going to happen. But you just give him a chance to make a play on the ball. 9 out of 10 times, it seems like he's going to do it. So, and then, the end zone to him he's got a lot of tricks to get in there too. One didn't really work so well, but, he'll find a way in the end zone. And these are all positive qualities from Jefferson. You can talk all day about how good he is, but he continues to prove that on a week-by-week basis.
Especially early in the game. It's almost like getting your shooting guard going, like, hey, let's just do it. If it's one-on-one, like you said, just throw it because he's going to knock it down or he's going to get a PI or whatever. Yeah, man, it's worth it. Like you said, just a long punt, which is obviously much different than the ball that was thrown to Thielen when it was like almost a jump ball with an angle. It was like, nah, dude, that's not going to work. But other than that, there was a couple of balls. Obviously, we'll talk about it a little bit later. But so you're like, okay, dude, and Aaron even got the 2-point conversion, right? Which we never get the 2-point conversion, it feels like. Even though
I know Cook jogged in.
Yeah, exactly, dude. There's nobody else like, oh my God, that was the easiest 2-point conversion I think we've ever had. And we're like, okay, dude, you got that separation. It's 31-24. Okay, defense. They've had the ball twice, dude. What are you going to do? They've scored twice, both good drives. It's freaking time to give up a 75-yard catch on one play. And like we spoke before we started recording this, dude, at least let the guy catch the ball at the 50. Okay, cool. But tackle him. Like, screw making a play on the ball. You're not even close to the ball. You should be focused on, okay, I got to at least tackle him. And that was just talk about momentum swing. And we all know PJ Fleck doesn't believe in momentum, but that had to have just sucked a lot of the air out of that stadium, dude.
Oh, it would have sucked the air. It sucked the air out of me. I started laughing. It was comical at that point. And, you break it down. Patrick Peterson said, came out a little aggressive, which I think is code for we called the blitz, and we probably shouldn't have called the blitz on that play.
Yep.
And like we said last week, you can't really blitz. You can't obviously blitz Rodgers. You might be able to disguise some things and get away with it, but you come out in a blitz that he's seen before. He knows exactly where to go with the ball. He's been doing this for 14 years. There's not a lot new under the sun for him. So if you're going to do that, you better make sure you get home because if not, that's a 70-yard touchdown, and that's exactly what it was.
Oh my God, that was just heartbreaking. You're like, so you're telling me it's tied that quick, huh? Is that what you're telling me? Like that? Seriously, dude? Like it had to be that? And it was like, okay, it's not over. We're good in the last part of the game, but damn. They just sat down. They're just getting some Gatorade in them. That's a long drive, dude. Like, give them a little time to play, get a couple plays together for the next drive. But Cook had a screen pass that he made a nice run at. And Cook, dude, the number was like 66 out of his 60 or 86, something like that, rushing yards were all after the contact. This guy, like I said, I think he had 25 touches, well over 100 yards because of that. But on the low, I really like what Cookie did today, dude. Like I said, it's not flashy, but we kept it going. And whenever there's that many yards of your yards after it, dude, that was huge. And he made a nice play there. And then you had that. Well, there was also that nice Thielen catch and run. That freaking like two things on that drive. The Thielen shit, right? We'll get to that. But then I think it was Savage who savagely jumped the route, wrestled it away, kind of, looking like he had the pick. And you're like, okay, it finally happened. There's been no picks today. It finally happened, and now they got the ball. And you just, all sorts of stuff run through your head. Oh my God, the game's tied. There's enough time. Holy shit, they're gonna get the ball now. They're gonna definitely get the ball. And for that not to go down, that was freaking huge, man. When we started going, okay, hold on, maybe they didn't grab the pick, and shit, we dropped probably 2 picks. Breland at least one of them again, but he's been playing better. I don't want to pick on Breland too much, but that throw and catch and the timing where it was out before Thielen turned around, and that corner, he even said it today. That corner jumped the route, but he was too ahead of it almost. And it was just so awkward. He thought he was going to stop right at the first down marker, which makes sense, right? Thielen said the route was actually a little past it, and Cousins put it to his right side to where it was like usually, like he even mentioned, you usually wouldn't put that in that area. You'd want to go to the sidelines, but that dude had jumped the route so much. He got it, and it just like breezed by him. Thielen keeps his balance, gives it, a couple more, 10, 15 yards rushing, and then all of a sudden the ball's at the 19, dude.
Yeah, I mean, even that whole play looked awkward. I mean, just from start to finish, and its ball placement was interesting. I think it actually allowed Thielen to where he put the ball in relationship to the defensive back actually allowed Thielen to make that turn. Had he put it inside, the defensive back would have made a tackle. So I don't know if it was dumb luck, and that's why we're kind of discussing, but it just kind of looked awkward. And
Very awkward.
Thielen caught it up high and then made the turn. And it was a beautiful play. Kind of reminded me of Diggs in the big play that he made against the Saints. But it was, it was a great play. And then the pick is like, I thought it was over at that point. I mean, you got 4 minutes left or something like that on the clock, and you're going to give it back to Rodgers with a chance to win. I mean, we've been around long enough to know that that's virtually a done deal, but you got to survive the ground is the quote. You got to survive the ground, and you've got to hang on to that thing all the way through. And he didn't. And I just love Packer tears. I love them. They're fantastic. They just can't get over that. Well, we should get that call, or
right.
That's they're so used to getting calls. It's like they don't even. God, just come over to the Viking side for a second and see how you feel about officiating.
Seriously, dude, and that was like at the $150 something mark where the pick would have happened. It was past the 2 minute. Actually, yeah, it was past. I think it was. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. So there's 2 minutes and 8 seconds left when that play happened, and then it went under the 2. Cousins got it down, like I said, to the 19. Cook had a really nice run for 12 yards, very patient run, and it was so funny. Aaron, on Twitter, people are freaking out like, you have to be aggressive here. It's like, dude, we got to like the 4 yard. How fucking more aggressive do you want to get? We're not stopping at the 28. I get that part. But when people are like, no, dude, you got to go, it's like, Cook made a super smart play because he probably could have just grinded his way in. He goes down at like the 4-3, and there's like a minute something left still. Okay, here, I'm looking at it. 1:26 left. Why in the world would you give 1:26 to Aaron Rodgers, Aaron? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
that was a smart play.
It was a very smart play, and you can tell that Cook had seen that movie before many times. And I don't know if he was told to do that or if he just was like, nope, I know this game. Because he said he really wanted that touchdown. I think he would have scored. He is a guy in the way but Cook is good at evading tackles. It's what he gets paid for. But, yeah, I mean, it was a great play, whether he was told to do it or he just did it. That's, I think, the play that won the game. You cannot give the ball to Rodgers. It was the same with Favre, too. You can't give him the ball with 1:26 and a chance to win the game. I mean, that's why they get paid the money they get paid. You can't do it. Cook was perfect to do it. I don't care about aggression at that point. You're at the 4. You need a field goal to win. Now, obviously, people probably are saying that because they don't have any faith in field goal kickers. And
Sure.
I can sympathize with that.
Yeah.
Even when he lined up for that kick, I wasn't confident. But, you can't just live your life that way. And I think Cook made the right play. And anybody who has a problem with it, look at the results. We won the game.
Exactly. 9 of 13 on third down, which is, that is about as good as it gets. Only 3 penalties. They had 8 of them. Too bad. Like you said, those tears. 90 yards rushing, just enough. Still, tried it 29 times. And it was, like I said, it was just enough and a little bit more than what we needed. So it was just like an all-purpose win. And it's just nice when this stuff goes back, the way it should, or go our way the way it should once in a while, right? And now here we are, 5-5, where we were out of the playoffs by a spot 2 weeks ago. Now we're in the 6th spot. There's a 6 and 7 spot. A lot of people going, in and around that area, including San Francisco. But 2-2, it was a weird way to get there. I still don't know how we lost that Dallas game. Even though we were playing like crap offensively, we still won up, late in that game. It was just like, are you serious? How did we go 2-2 but lose to a backup Dallas? That's just the Vikings right there, dude. But we got to 2-2.
Yeah, it is.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say it is, and you're right about the weird way you get to 2-2. It wasn't nobody would have said going into those 4-game stretches that we were going to win the games that we won, and lose the games that we lost for that matter. The Dallas game was weird. I mean, it's sort of all these games have been weird and close, and either the defense isn't good enough this week, or the offense isn't good enough this week, or the game plan or the scripted plays. It's just been a bunch of different things. That, maybe they're just fighting their way, and hopefully they're peaking because they need to make a run coming up here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so 5-5, we're feeling pretty good. That was the most pressures that we faced this year, and the 3rd most hits on a quarterback. But we got rid of the ball. We didn't get sacked 6 times or anything like that. For the most part, like you mentioned, Cole even got a little better with that Clark later where you take that second hit rather than just the first one and I'm going to go smash your quarterback. Maybe we gave him some help too. Cook and Ham, both Cook and Ham, definitely made some good plays there. But overall, that was one of the best offensive displays that we've had this season. And, just targeting Jefferson early in games, such a key. There it is. 66 out of 86 of his yards were after contact, Cook, man. And, the O-line had its issues, but there was times where it did give a decent amount in really just the penalties, man. Griff had a lot of mental errors. Already mentioned Xavier Woods. Not a good
Griff
game
is
from
a
him.
mental error.
Man, seriously. That is so well put, dude. It's just like, dude, and it's like he'll make up for it, but then he'll just fuck it up again,
Dude, I was yelling, dude. I was like, "You're over the ball! You're over the ball!"
Yeah.
It's like, maybe he thinks he can get away with it.
I'm gonna get to the quarterback, though. You're like, no, dude, it doesn't. You can't do that.
Look, I just think that,
That's just him.
Cousins, that was the best performance I've seen him have in a Viking uniform. Now, there's been some good games, like the Rams shootout was good. There was a Packers shootout in Lambeau maybe 2 years ago. That was pretty good. But as far as, things I want to see out of Kirk, a little bit of grit, standing in there, taking shots, being a little bit more self-assured in what you do. This is the best I've seen him play. I give him a ton of credit, standing in there against some pretty tough pressure and just giving guys chances to make plays. I think that's all that Jefferson and Thielen were asking him to do, is just throw it up and let's see what I can do with it. And I think last year with back of the end zone, what Jefferson was yelling at Kirk is that same sentiment. It's just throw the ball. Let me make a play. And it might take a couple years, but Kirk's been, this is his 4th season here. And he's had Thielen that whole time. And he had a pretty good one before with Diggs. And, Diggs had a problem with that too. And you just can't have, great receivers and not give them chances to make plays. And I think that finally got into his head. Let's knock on wood that continues. But I was very impressed with just fly it up there. I mean, even that touchdown we were talking about with Jefferson, where he, body control. That wasn't a great pass. He underthrew him, but Jefferson made an adjustment on the ball and made a play and got a touchdown. And these are the type of things you have to trust these guys. There's two of the top, maybe, God, you could say two of the top 10 and possibly top 5 receivers in the league. Give them a chance.
Well, and some of it is coverage, too, if we're fair. Because if they're doubling and taking away the deep ball, you're not going to keep chucking it deep. So it kind of goes back and forth. If you look, the last 10 games of last year and then these 10 games, we talked about it last year, Aaron, how we finally got these motherfuckers to get off the line and not always every single play, every single down for the first 3 quarters. They're stacking in the box. And last year we finally, we talked about it since Favre, that 2009 year, we couldn't get people off the fucking line. And yeah, we still ran the ball pretty well, but all things considered, that was a big problem. And it's just, man, it's been great. And like I said, every time Jefferson's one-on-one, not every time, but pretty much every time he's one-on-one, especially when they're actually trying to bracket him and trying to take you out, then almost every single time he's covered up. Of course, if we're up by 3 touchdowns or something, yeah, sure, someone will DM me that and be like, no, dude, we should. You know what I'm saying. Go to him when it's one-on-one. You got to. He's going to make the right play. But overall, I mean, this is nothing new, though. I keep hearing a lot of people talked about these, not last week, but the 2 weeks where it was really bad. Short passing and dump down and dink and all that. Like I said, Cousins has been throwing the ball deep here and in Washington his whole career. You can't lead the league in 40-yard touchdowns if you're not throwing it deep. So the aggression, but also, like I said, that line improving a little bit in the second half. Man, it was just, that was fun. That was damn good. And you even said he turned the corner this year. I mean, I think he's been playing lights out for 20 games almost. You're not going to play great every game, but if you look at what he did in the last 20 games, it's pretty freaking crazy. Lining up to our quarterbacks. I'm not putting him in the Hall of Fame, okay? But this year, he's looking like just this year. This year, he's a top 10 quarterback this year. Top 5, it's hard to ever put him there because he has limitations. But this year, this guy, and like I said, the last 10 games last year, has just been ridiculous. Any more items, though, sir, before we get to this, what should be a very competitive game coming up at San Francisco?
Well, no, I don't want to start a whole argument here or a whole discussion because we want to move on to San Francisco. But, as well as Kirk has been playing, and you got to give him credit, it's a different animal this year. At least the last 20 games, like you said, we're still 5-5. It's that gravitational pull to 500 that, it's not all his fault. It's not this, but it just needs to be pointed out that, we can't get away from 500 with Kirk Cousins and we need to. So maybe this is the year that breaks. Now, San Francisco.
Well, hold on. You can't.
I was hoping to smooth right through that.
Look at the
Let me go right through it.
No. Look at the defense last year. You cannot put the record on Cousins last year being 7-9. This year, tell me the game where we had garbage time. I'd like to know the game we had garbage time this year. He's putting up his best year with no garbage time whatsoever. Not one down of garbage time this year. Not one. He's not the reason why we're 5-5 though. This year, you blame him for 5-5?
I'm not blaming anyone. I just think it's a strange coincidence.
Well, so he's turned the corner. He's done all this stuff. He has so many comebacks in the last 2 minutes. Basically, the stuff that in 2018 people were saying he couldn't do, he's now done so many of those things. At some point, we got to think he can do that at the end of games because he's done it like 7 times this year, maybe 8 now. It just gets a little like, really, dude? So we're 5-5. If Cousins played a little better, we'd be 7. And I just don't. I don't know. I'll let you get the last word though, and then, like you said, you can go into San Francisco.
No, I mean, my point is just stands that, we started the season with Cousins at exactly 500, and we're still at exactly 500. That was my only point.
But that's why that quarterback thing, that can be so misleading. I could give you so many quarterback records that you go, really? Holy shit. That doesn't make sense. Well, it's a team sport, like you said, Okay, so.
Santa Clara.
Santa Clara. Tickets are going for as low as $37 at Vivid Seats, just so you guys know out there. So it opened at like a 2.5, Aaron, which is damn near a pick'em game, right? Because of the 3-point, and I think it's 3.5 in the pros, and 3 in college. It did push to 3 now, so they are favored by 3. So it's right there. It's definitely right there. We have a little bit of advantage on offense, not a major one. They have a little, advantage on defense, not a major one. They stopped the run a little bit better. I'd say the biggest thing is they stopped the pass way better. If you look at this, we give up 273 through the air. They give up only 218. And they've been, they've been kind of weird. They had this, I think 3-0 start, then lost 3 or 4 games in a row. And now they're kind of back up on it. Got a huge 2 weeks ago. That Rams game was probably their best performance, period. But they beat them 31-10, Aaron. And then they followed it right back up 30-10 in Jacksonville. And, beating Jacksonville, not a big deal there. But to follow that up, that really kind of makes me think, man, I really wish they were kind of maybe 2-2 or something down the stretch. It seems like they're getting their shit together, more like they were earlier in this year. So, they're going to run the hell out of the ball. They got a better offensive line, obviously. It doesn't take a whole lot, but they do. In their defense, the front seven, when we played them 2 years ago in 2019, in that year in general, what they did the next week to Rodgers as well, when that thing gets going on defense, that front seven, they can really make you pay. And they want, we talk about ball control. This year, we're really good at ball control, but we're top 10 in running and passing this year, which is not normally always the case. So we're kind of a blend where they're still grinding out a ton of run. And they do these, they have not just that one tight end, that they do these little plays that just kind of move the chains. Then they'll strike deep, but only after play action. They obviously got a really crafty offensive-minded coach. Long story short, the Vikings are going to have their hands full with a very important 5-5 squad here because, when we start to go tiebreakers and all that, a lot of this comes down to how you do in the NFC. And right now we're doing good in the NFC, but this is a game that's important because the Niners are right there behind us for the playoffs.
I mean, this comes down to offensive line, defensive line to me. This is where the game is at this point. I mean, their front seven, like you said, is got to be one of the best in the league, and they're all first-round picks, and they're all big, and our offensive line is just not built for that. I'm not saying it's going to be because I thought we held up well against Green Bay, who's similar, but you don't got Joey Bosa in Green Bay, or Nick Bosa, I guess. I can't tell which one of the Bosas is which, but one of the Bosas is definitely there, and then you've got a bunch of guys on the inside, and it's going to be a test for this offensive line, much more than I think Green Bay was, and even Cleveland. And I thought it's a game we can win because we've dealt with some offensive or some defensive lines that are pretty stout, but this is all 4 of them, and they're all good with some good linebackers and some tricks up their sleeve. And I don't like it much, but I mean, offensively, you can move the pocket, you can do some things to get away from that, and they're going to have to do that screen game to keep them off balance. Just the stuff that you do when you have great defense, when you're playing great defensive lines. And, I think Darisaw will help, but he's going to have a big test against the Bosa kid. And, O'Neal the same. I mean, every one of those linemen are going to be tested, and we'll see how it works out. I hope Cole continues to play. I don't really want to see Bradbury again, although I do have a feeling we will. This is a hard call, Chris. I think that's why, they're 3.5 favorites. I like the Vikings here, and I'm going to say just because of coming off the Green Bay game, let's hope they don't, choke up and celebrate too much over beating Green Bay at home. But, I think they'll go down there and take care of business, but I don't think it'll be a blowout by any stretch, although it could be. I just don't think it will be. I think it'll be a close game, much like the Packer game. Similar offenses going at each other. I think our defense is good enough with Kendricks. Seems to play well in California. Barr, we got him back. Everybody seemed to leave healthy. Another week for Peterson's conditioning. So I think, our defense has an edge over their offense. Their defense has an edge over our offense. It's just, penalties, turnovers, blah, blah, blah. I like the Vikings here, probably by 3. Vikings by 3.
Can you hear me right now? My
Yes,
mic
I
just
can.
okay. It's funny that you bring that up because I remember us talking about the Packer defense, and obviously they were only giving up 18 points. That's when we had 16 and a half. I was like, wow, we're really doing better than I thought. Now, way better than we did against Cleveland. But in the same breath, they decided not to go too deep on us. They decided not to bracket Jefferson or anything like that. They were so confident in their defense that they said, and we've had these years too, where they don't, sometimes we didn't even blitz because we got so much pressure off the front four. But I don't think they're going to do that again. I think they're going to take the deep ball away. The last 2 weeks with Jefferson, this generally happens too. When you have some hot weeks with the wide receiver, they take you out of it. What we got to do is take advantage of when he's doubled up. We got to take advantage of the other guys then. And it would be nice, obviously Thielen's going to be there, right? He's always making some key plays, and maybe from a positional standpoint where he could just, be that possession receiver. Osborne, we're going to need Osborne to be a little more productive, and we got to target him a little bit more in this game. I actually, it's hard this year to pick them 3 straight times to win. I'm just going off, historical context here, especially this year, right? So I picked them to win the last 2, and I feel like I'm almost jinxing them by doing it, even though none of this shit counts for anything in the end of the day. But I actually have the Vikings losing this game, and it's 24-20 or 23-19, 26. I think I wrote down 24-20. There it is. Yeah, 24-20. Unfortunately, going down to the Niners. But man, when you look at, the next little run, Detroit is next week. Now, Pittsburgh's a good team, but we got them at home. Then we go on the road at Chicago, which, we have problems with their defense. Their linebacker, who always, terrorizes us, he's done for the season, and their offense is just garbage, even with an improved play from the rookie. So when you look at these 4 games, let's just talk about this real quick. These 4 games, 2-2 is doable in these 4 games, and it feels like a lot more doable than the last set of 4 that we went through.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, I think they're going to beat the Niners. Steelers, that's a tough defense. So let's say they lose the Steelers. You're going to beat the Lions, and you're going to beat the Bears. So there's 3-1 is what I'm thinking. And I think that's pretty reasonable. I don't think that's going out on a ledge. I think the Niners is the big game. If you win, that's the difference between 3-1 and 2-2. You beat the Niners, you can go 3-1. You lose, you got to hope for 2-2 and 500 again. I mean, I think they got to make a statement here. They've been playing well. Generally, they continue to do that. Once they find it, they tend to ride with it. That's kind of why I'm going with them in San Francisco. But you're right. I mean, I'm not 100% sure of it, and I like what you called for the Niner game. But I think that's really the linchpin of the next 4 is that you beat the Niners. You can go 3-1 in this. I don't like the Lions are doing again, and like you said, the Bears offense is a hot mess, and that kind of the whole franchise right now is a hot mess. And the Steelers, you got them at home. You got to hope you can beat them. You think the Steelers are? I think you can beat them.
At home, I'm saying at home. At home, I feel better about potentially beating them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like 3-1 for the next 4. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think 2-2's got to be had, and I think we got a good chance of 3-1. And hey, we'll be 3-1 if we win this week. You know what I mean? But what did we win? 4 in a row last year. We were 1-5, then won 4 in a row. So we are definitely capable of it when we get going with Zim. He usually doesn't start good. I mean, even that year we went 13-3. Remember, we were 2-2, and I remember that Lions game was like 14-7. I was like, oh my god, this is horrendous, dude. We're fucked, you know. So
Yeah.
once he gets it going,
you can't have a letdown. I mean,
yes,
you got to beat the Bears. You got to beat the Lions. You can't give up any one of those two games. You should win them. You need to win them. And, Vikings have an uncanny knack for giving up a game they shouldn't. And I just hope that doesn't happen again, because then you go from 3-1 to 2-2 real quick.
Yeah, you got to battle back. Okay, now let's get back to fight. You can only do that. You can only go back to the freaking same old stuff every time. You can't do that. You just can't do that. All right. So the Gophers bounced back very nicely. Very dominant win. Hey, what do you know? Our pass game was better this week. Of course, Bell was just making some catches that's just like, dude, I love this fucking guy. And Morgan bounced back. We should, mention that. I was a little hard on him. Well, I don't think I was hard on him, but
No, you weren't.
He didn't play that good, so that's why I say he's not that hard. I wasn't hard on him, but yeah, he bounced back. He made some really good passes, dude, and he kind of showed you why he's still the guy, no doubt about it. Now, of course, it was against a club that is just probably the most injured in the whole country, or top 10 at least, but still, a win is a win. And now, Aaron, it's time to beat Bucky. We've heard about the 4-way tie. 2-way tie hurts us. We're screwed. But a 4-way tie then becomes a round robin for the folks that don't know at home. And we beat Purdue. And if we beat Wisconsin, then we beat 2 out of 3 in that round robin, whereas Iowa already lost to Purdue and Wisconsin. So Iowa, though, because it's Thanksgiving time, they play on Friday against Nebraska without Martinez. So that one hurts a little bit. They played really good, pretty damn good against Wisconsin last weekend, almost won that game. So I think they were very capable of beating Iowa this week, and it's one of those spoiler things where a team that talk about losing by 7 points or less, they've lost a ton of those. And it actually fit me under the spread. Last week they were underdogs by 12, and they ended up, sneaking underneath that against the Badgers and battled it. I'm a little worried about Martinez, but since he's been there, and you mentioned this before we got on air, since he's been there so long, they probably have a guy ready or close to. So, and maybe can just spring him on him. And it's like, whoa, we're not used to seeing that or whatever. And Martinez has played so long that the guy has, and they've been in so many tight games, talking about garbage time, he hasn't had a lot of time to play the guy behind him. So what I do know is Friday we'll already know the scenario we're in. But in the end, just getting the axe would do it for me, dude, regardless of how this turns out. That's like a huge bowl win to close the season.
Well, every year, that really is the game. And it comes down to it. And it's like, you're right. You want to win the rest of the games, but beating Wisconsin's huge here. And Wisconsin likes to play it off like it doesn't mean anything to them, but we all know that it does. And, about the Iowa-Nebraska game, it's hard to bet against Iowa against Nebraska, but, like you said, Nebraska played really well against Wisconsin. They could spring a quarterback if they have one, or they could come up with some stuff. It's their last game too. And, stranger things have happened, so you want that to go the right way, but, it's probably not very probable. So you're going to find yourself in an interesting situation. But, speaking about next year, the West is going to be, Nebraska's improving, Illinois is improving. It's going to be a bloodbath next year in the West. There's not going to be any easy games there. And, it's just that's next year. But I think we're a better conference with Nebraska being good. And let's hope that that's the case. And let's hope they start it this week and beat Iowa. That would be a huge game for us. And then really you're hyped up for Bucky on Saturday. And you just got to beat them. It would beat them again within the last 4 years. Now we have an actual rivalry. If you lose again, you're still kind of clawing at number one, and that's, not a good space to be. So let's hope they get a win. I think they can do it. It's going to be tough. I mean, but everybody's healthy, Chris. All the receivers are back and healthy. Your backs have come along fairly well for being freshmen. Your
Lucy
line,
Goosey.
your line
Lucy
is your
Goosey
line.
coming in.
So I don't think I don't think you're oversized anymore. Defensively, you might be outquicked, but they don't really have a lot of. I mean, Mertz has improved his play, but he's still prone to making mistakes. So you have a chance to win this game, and it'd be so nice if you did, because that puts you, whether the Iowa-Nebraska game goes your way or the other way, you beat Wisconsin and get another win, proves your bowl chances and all that other stuff. So you got to beat them, and it just feel good to beat the Packers and then beat the Badgers.
Yeah, could you imagine back-to-back weeks? You're right. I mean, you got a chance at 9 wins with the bowl game, recruiting. You take that shit around in the spring and the summer on the Gopher float or whatever they call it. They go around all over the state and everything. That would be big. I'm definitely going to go down to that case and take a picture with it if we get that done. But the reason why I'm not, we do need what they've won, I think 7 in a row now. And the reason why I'm a little skeptical, because you're right, Mertz hasn't had these great games. They've just been grinding, and they've been running the shit out of the ball. Go figure. But they're up to like 220 now per game, and the problem is they only give up like 50 or 60 a game. Now we're going to get that, but their defense, you have Georgia, and you might have the Badgers. It's that good this year. So that in maybe, like I was saying, loosey-goosey, maybe we'll come in there a little more loosey-goosey and open up the playbook like we did last week a little bit more and say, well, in the end, who gives a shit? Like, why don't we throw the ball a little bit more, play action, So their defense is so nasty, though. Iowa's was damn good, but this one's different. This is like top 5 in the country. So I'm not going to predict them to win, but man, that would be such a good way to end the season, no doubt, the regular season anyway. Any last words before we wrap this puppy up, sir?
I just think it's cool that in the last maybe 5 years, Chris, the prominence of this game is nationally has really gone up. Like everybody's aware of it now. Like when we were coming up, it was Minnesota, Wisconsin. It was like, a regional rivalry, but now that it's, I don't know who pumped it up, maybe ESPN or whoever, but now it's a big deal. You hear people from Pennsylvania talking about the Axe game, and it wasn't even called the Axe game before that. Now it's got a name. So I think it's pretty cool that the rest of the country is kind of aware of this rivalry, and it's the oldest rivalry in college football, and it's kind of cool that it gets the attention it deserves now.
Yeah, especially big-time college football. I think Harvard and Yale or whatever is the longest. But, yeah, dude, the Michigan one too. But I love the fact that we play every year, and I hope they never change this, that they have it at the end of the year every time. I'd love that.
Oh, it makes it so much more weighted at times. Where you're just like, it's like, God, it's not only beating Wisconsin, but there's all this other stuff attached to it. Just makes it so much better.
Yep, and it's rivalry week, so why not have it the last game, right? And I think part of that, Aaron, is because in 2014, 2019, and this year, we were knocking at the door of the conference final. So I think that kind of plays into what you're saying as far as the rivalry heating up even more, and we're actually, making it like, oh, we gotta kind of worry about it. Anyway, let's hope we double dip. As far as, the Vikes and the Gophers, we'll definitely be back next Monday. Peace out.